This is Book the Fourth, Recalled to the Light, Chapter 47, 48, and 49. I'm reading from the Scholastic Paperback Edition. Printing is 2006, and the text copyright is 2003. Chapter 47, No Choice. Desborough stood trembling on the steps. The thread was most definitely gone. He could not hear it. He could not see it. He should have tied it to himself when he had the chance. But it was too late now. Desborough's dire situation suddenly became quite clear to him. He was a 2-ounce mouse, alone, in a dark, twisting dungeon full of rats. He had nothing but a sewing needle with which to defend himself. He had to find a princess, and he had to save her once he found her. "It's impossible," he said to the darkness. "I can't do it." He stood very still. "I'll go back," he said. But he didn't move. "I have to go back." He took a step backward. "But I can't go back. I don't have a choice. I have no choice." He took one step forward, and then another. No choice. His heart beat out to him as he went down the stairs. No choice, no choice, no choice. At the bottom of the stairs, the rat Botticelli sat waiting, and when Desborough stepped from the last stair onto the dungeon floor, Botticelli called out to him, as if he were a long-lost friend. "Ah," said Botticelli, "there you are, exactly. I've been waiting for you." Desborough saw the dark shape of a rat, the thing that he had feared and dreaded for so long, finally step out of the gloom and come to greet him. "Welcome, welcome," said Botticelli. Desborough put his paw on the needle. "Ah," said Botticelli, "you are armed. How charming." He put his paws up in the air. "I surrender." "Oh, yes, certainly, exactly. I surrender." "I," said Desborough. "Yes," said Botticelli. "You?" And he took the locket from around his neck, and he began to swing it back and forth. "Please go on." "I don't want to hurt you," said Desborough. "I just need to get by you. I am on a quest." "Really?" said Botticelli. "How extraordinary! A mouse on a quest." Back and forth went the locket. "A quest for what?" "A quest to save the princess." "The princess," said Botticelli. "The princess, the princess. Everything seems to be about the princess these days. The king's men were down here searching for her, you know. They didn't find her. That goes without saying. But now a mouse has arrived, and he is on a quest to save the princess?" "Yes," said Desborough, and he took a step to the left of Botticelli. "How inspiring," said Botticelli, and he lazily took a step to his right, blocking Desborough's way. "Why the hurry, little friend?" "Because," said Desborough, "I have to." Yes, you have to save the princess, exactly. But before you save her, you must find her, correct?" "Yes," said Desborough. "What if," said Botticelli, "what if I told you I know exactly where the princess is? What if I told you that I could take you right directly to her?" "Hmm," said Desborough. His voice shook. His paw on the needle trembled. Why would you do that? Why would I do that? Why would I help you? Why, to be of service, to do my part for humanity, to aid in the saving of the princess. But you're a rat, supplied Botticelli. Yes, I am a rat, and I see by your trembling that greatly exaggerated rumors of our evil nature have reached your oversized ears. Yes, said Despereaux. If, said Botticelli, swinging the locket back and forth, if you allow me to be of assistance, you will be doing me a tremendous favor. Not only can I do a good deed for you and for the princess, but my actions will help to dispel this terrible myth of evil that seems to surround rats everywhere. Will you let me assist you? Will you let me assist myself and my kind? Reader, was it a trick? Of course it was. Botticelli did not want to be of service. Far from it. You know what Botticelli wanted. He wanted others to suffer. Specifically, he wanted to make this mouse suffer. And how best to do that? Well, take him right directly to what he wanted, the princess. Let him see what his heart desired, and then, and only then, faced with what he loved, would Despereaux die. And at the end of it all, how tasty the mouse would be, seasoned with hope and tears and flour and thwarted love. My name, little friend, is Botticelli Ramoso, and you must trust me. You may trust me. Will you tell me your name? Despereaux. Despereaux Tilling. Despereaux Tilling, take your paw from your weapon. Come with me. Despereaux stared at him. Come, come, said Botticelli. Let go of your needle. Take hold of my tail, and I will lead you to your princess. I promise. What, reader, in your experience, is the promise of a rat worth? That's right. Zero. Zip. Nada. Goose eggs. But I must ask you this question too. What else was there for Despereaux to hold on to? You're right again. Nothing. And so the mouse reached out, and he took hold of the rat's tail. Chapter 40. On the Tail of a Rat. Have you ever had hold of the tail of a rat? At best, it is an unpleasant sensation, scaly and cold, similar to holding on to a small, narrow snake. At worst, when you are dependent upon a rat for your survival, and when a part of you is certain that you are being led nowhere except to your death, it is a hideous sensation indeed, to have nothing but a rat's tail to cling to. Nonetheless, Despereaux held on to Botticelli Ramoso, and the rat led him deeper and deeper into the dungeon. Despereaux's eyes, by this point, adjusted quite well to the darkness, though maybe it would have been better if they had not, for the things that he saw made him shiver and shake. What did he see? Well, he saw that the floor of the dungeon was littered with tufts of fur and knots of red thread and skeletons of mice. Everywhere there were tiny white bones glowing in the darkness. And he saw in the dungeon tunnels through which Botticelli led him the bones of human beings too, grinning skulls, with delicate finger bones rising up out of the darkness and pointing towards some truth better left unspoken. Despero closed his eyes, but it didn't help. He saw as if his eyes were still open. He saw the bones, the tufts of hair, the knots of thread, and the despair. Exactly. Botticelli laughed as he negotiated the turns and twists. Oh, yes, exactly. If what was in front of Despero was too horrible to contemplate, what followed behind him was, perhaps, even worse. Rats. A happy, hungry, vengeful parade of rats, with their noses up in the air, sniffing and sniffing. Mouse! Sang one rat joyfully. Oh, yes, yes, mouse! Agreed another. But something else, too. Soup! Called out another rat. Yes, soup! The others agreed. Blood! Sang a rat. Blood! They all agreed together. And then they sang. Here, mousie, mousie, mousie. Here, little mousie. Botticelli called out to the other rats. Mine, he said. This little treasure is all mine, ladies and gentlemen. Please, I beg you, do not infringe on my discovery. Mr. Remoso, said Despero. He turned and looked behind him and saw the rats. The red eyes, the smiling mouths. And he closed his eyes again. He kept them closed. Mr. Remoso, he shouted. Yes, said Botticelli. Mr. Remoso, said Despero. And he was crying now. He couldn't help it. Please, the princess? Tears, shouted the rats. We smell tears, mousie, we do. Please, shouted Despero. Little friend, said Botticelli. Little Despero Tilling. I promised you, and I will keep that promise. The rat stopped. Look ahead of you, he said. What do you see? Despero opened his eyes. Light, he said. Exactly, said Botticelli. Light. Chapter 49. What do you want, Miggery Sow? Again, reader, we must go backward before we go forward. We must consider for a moment what had occurred with the rat and the serving girl and the princess down in the dungeon before Despero made his way to them. What happened was this. Roscuro led the Pea and Mig deep into the dungeon to a hidden chamber, and there he directed Mig to put the princess in chains. Gore, said Meg. She's going to have a hard time learning her lessons if she's chained up like. Do as I say, said Roscuro. Maybe, said Meg, before I lock her up, her and me could switch outfits, so we could start in already with her being me and me being a princess. Oh, yes, said Roscuro. Clearly. A wonderful idea, Miss Miggery. Princess, take off your crown and give it to the serving girl. The Pea sighed and took off her crown and handed it to Mig. And Mig put it on, and it slid immediately right down her small head and came to rest, quite painfully, on her poor abused ears. "It's a biggish thing," she said, "and painful like." "Well, well," said Roscuro. "How do I look?" Mig asked, smiling at him. "Ridiculous," he said. "Laughable." Mig stood, blinking back tears. "You mean I don't look like a princess?" she said to the rat. "I mean," said Roscuro, "you will never look like a princess, no matter how big a crown you put on your tiny head. You will look exactly like the fool you are and always will be. Now, make yourself useful and chain the princess up. Dress-up time is over." Mig sniffed and wiped her eyes, and then bent to look at the pile of chains and locks on the floor. "And now, princess," he said, "I'm afraid that the time of your truth has arrived. I will now tell you what your future holds. As you consigned me to the darkness, so I consign you too, to a life spent in this dungeon." Mig looked up. "Ain't she going upstairs to be a serving maid?" "No," said Roscuro. "Ain't I going to be a princess then?" "No," said Roscuro. "But I want to be a princess." "No one," said Roscuro, "cares what you want." As you know, reader, Miguruza had heard this sentiment expressed many times in her short life. But now, in the dungeon, it hit her full force. The rat was right. No one cared what she wanted. No one had ever cared. And perhaps worst of all, no one would ever care. "I want," cried Mig. "Shh," said the princess. "Be quiet," said the rat. "I want," sobbed Mig. "I want, I want." "What do you want, Mig?" the princess said softly. "Eh?" shouted Mig. "What do you want, Miguruza?" the princess shouted. "Don't ask her that," said Roscuro. "Be quiet, be quiet." But it was too late. The words had been said. The question at last had been asked. The world stopped spinning, and all of creation held its breath, waiting to hear what it was that Miguruza wanted. "I want," said Mig. "Yes?" shouted the pea. "I want my ma," cried Mig into the silent, waiting world. "I want my ma." "Oh," said the princess. She held out her hand to Mig, and Mig took hold of it. "I want my mother too," said the princess softly, and she squeezed Mig's hand. "Stop it!" shouted Roscuro. "Chain her up! Chain her up!" "Gore," said Mig, "I ain't going to do it. You can't make me do it. I got the knife, don't I?" And she took the knife and held it up. "If you have any sense at all," said Roscuro, "and I heartily doubt that you do, you will not use that instrument on me. Without me, you will never find your way out of the dungeon, and you will starve to death here, or worse." "Gore," said Meg, "then lead us out now, or I will chop you into little rat bits." No, said Roscuro. The princess shall stay here in the darkness, and you, Mig, will stay with her. But I want to go upstairs, said Mig. I'm afraid that we're stuck here, Mig, shouted the princess, unless the rat has a change of heart and decides to lead us out. There will be no changes of heart, said Roscuro. None. Gore, said Mig. She lowered the knife. And so the rat and the princess and the serving girl sat together in the dungeon as outside the castle the sun rose and moved through the sky and sank to the earth again, and night fell. They sat together until the candle had burned out and another one had to be lit. They sat together in the dungeon. They sat and sat. And reader, truthfully, they might be sitting there still if a mouse had not arrived. Thank you to the websites listed here for some of the pictures in the PowerPoint. We have one more section to go, ladies and gentlemen, the last few chapters. I will see you next time. Bye.